So, welcome to the latest episode of. I don't know if I was going to say the Underdog Pound or the Specialist or whatever, because we've had a few different iterations in this playlist. But we're here for Specialist Underdog Chat. It's me, Quinny, as always, and I'm joined by my faithful co-host for today, TrippinB. Trippin, good to see you, my man.
What's up, Quinny? I love that Underdog Pound. I think you got to go with that. It's the first time I've heard it, and I love it. So
yeah, so coming up with names is hard, and I don't always know if they're funny or not, or if I think it's funny or ironic or whatever. But yeah, if you can dig it, we'll probably run
the
with
Underdog
it.
Pound. Let's go.
That's it. So we've got a great weekend actually of a game week set up for us, because we've not had European fixtures this midweek, but we have had some domestic cups, and that's led to a lot of different rotation and some different like power squads or power clubs in different regions and whatever. And with Champions League and Europa League, the fifth game is very vital for a lot of clubs. That's coming up this midweek. So this weekend here, me and Trippin are really excited to get stuck into Specialist, L45, L40 guys, because you know, some of these guys and these other squads that are a bit more settled perhaps, or don't have that juggling act to contend with, could be the ones that have the power game weeks this week. Trippin.
Yeah, I love the Specialist division's become one of my favorites since it launched, or earlier this year. I think it's one of the best things that Sorare has done in 2022. To be blunt, like it's just, it adds so much utility to cards that normally would never see the light of day, and it creates liquidity in the market as people start chasing these cards. Gives you great it adds to the fun of the game. If you're into Sorare for the scouting, then you got to play Specialist, because like it's all about scouting. And I love the rule structure, and I love finding a couple U40 guys that can pop off, and then pairing them, take a risk, throw a stud that you might normally put in a global lineup, throw them in the Specialist, and hope they can bring you home a top prize. And I love the best, obviously the coolest thing about Specialists, I'm not telling people things they don't already know here, but the ability to like win the higher scarcity, like win rares with limited cards, is what makes it so valuable. So hopefully we got some good picks for the people this weekend.
That's it. And I believe we do. Now this week, almost every time we do this, it's a slightly different angle of approach. And the one that Trippin's brought to the table today, I absolutely love. The full fives that we're delivering today are L15 under 40. So all of them could be the Specialist underdog pick, if you like. You can maybe throw them all together and go at L45 on them. There's a lot of different stuff that's going on here. So goalkeepers are here, strikers, all sorts of good stuff. So
yeah, this was good for me, because my L45 underdog, my under 45 underdog is usually complete throwaways. But now going through this scouting exercise, I might actually put together like a real, like try to be competitive under 45 team this in the underdog this week. I can't wait.
Yeah, I've started to try and build that as one of my first limited teams over the last week or two as well, because like, it's like Trippin, we all see it on like everywhere. Once the game week closes, the top 40 positions, the top 100 positions are fairly closed out in All-Star, Champ Euro, U23 by big XP cards, power stacks, the set and forget lineups that pay for themselves in that way. but not in these leagues. That just doesn't happen,
Those
damn
whales getting us every time, for sure. Yeah.
Those limited whales. So we'll start with yourself, Trippin.
So Andre Hansen, this is he's a Norwegian goalkeeper, and that's probably the one thing that I'm a little worried about in this recommendation. Is, if you can see, he's only got 4 game weeks left of utility here before they take a long break. The Norwegian, they'll break for the World Cup, and they'll break for the long cold winter up north in far north Scandinavia before they come back. Kind of a summer fall league in Norway.
Yep.
But I like what I'm seeing here with Andre Hansen. You see the L15 is down at 35. And what happened there? His games played 60%. Well, he missed 2 games. He had 2 DNPs here, right? After a little bit of a bad run of form. But as you can see, back-to-back clean sheets. He's looking like he might be back here. He's got some upside to spike for some higher scores, as you can see in the fairly recent past as well. And he's got some these matchup numbers don't pop, but what I really like is the price. 0.02 here for the limited. You can pick him up cheap. He's not going to have a ton of long-term utility, but he does come with a nice situation here for this week's Specialist. And then my other goalkeeper that I want to throw out there is one that maybe a lot of Sorare players a lot more familiar with, is Stole Dimitrievski. He's in La Liga. He's got you know, a lot of people have been burned by this guy in the past. I think a lot of people talk a lot of trash on him, but he has your L15 under 40, and he's got a really nice run of matchups coming. This is why I threw him in there. He's got Cadiz at home this week, where we're focusing specifically, which is real nice. They're a relegation bound side, and he has a chance to pop, I think. And then if you look at some of the upcoming matchups, he might give you a little longer term utility than Andre if you were to go in on him. 0.0435 for the limited price. Maybe you can even find Toxic Window a little bit cheaper than that. And that's where I'm going to look. I'm going to get one of these guys for my goalkeeper this week.
That was quality. And if you could go back to Hansen for me, sorry. The thing I really like actually about Hansen, see if you look at those two games, the next two, Molde and Bodo Glimt, obviously the opposition average is really low against them. They're like quite dominant teams that normally spank, you know, a lot of other teams in Norway. That probably won't be the case against Rosenborg, but that's a game where even without a clean sheet, your boy Hansen can break 50 because they will it'll be a good opposition that they're against that will test them. So even though it is only 4 games, that's decent, I think.
And if you just look at his longer term history, look, you got his majority of games get into that 60-70 range. So this is a guy who's kind of had a bad run of form, who looks after back-to-back clean sheets and the chance to do some work against some teams that will be shooting. I think he has some potential for sure.
I didn't actually prepare a goalkeeper for today until I realised Trippin had. I thought I didn't even know he had 2, or they just asked for one off him, you know. But Trippin's like, no, I've got a goalkeeper, so I had to go and get one out, and I did the easiest thing imaginable in terms of the settings. That I tried to go and find a goalkeeper, and I couldn't believe that Sean Johnson popped up. He did hit a little sticky patch of form, as holders will remember. At the moment, he is at 0.05. He is out of contract at the end of the season. He only really has 1 guaranteed game left in the season, so it is a kind of do or die play in that respect. Away to Montreal is definitely not a gimme either. But Sean John at 33, he's definitely like a undisputed #1 at either top MLS level. Don't see him even being out of contract at NYC. I can't imagine him leaving America really at this stage. I can't really even imagine him leaving New York, if I'm honest, but it is undetermined. He is out of contract, so buyers beware in that respect. But elite MLS goalkeeper, and to be L15 under 40, again, without a clean sheet, Johnson can get some decent scores depending on how many they actually concede or don't concede, you know.
He can save a penalty too, Sean John. And yeah, I have, without looking it up, without busting out my Google, I would share your confidence that if he's, you know, out of contract at the end of the season, it's probably just a thing where they're waiting till the end of the year to do the negotiations, because they don't want to distract from the focus of trying to win MLS Cup. And Sean John, like you said, he's one of the best keepers in MLS. I can't see any way he leaves NYC unless there's some crazy money dispute that they can't agree on after the year. So I would expect him to be a very safe purchase. And Montreal's not the best matchup, but you know, New York City is definitely what I would consider back. They went through a rough run of form after they lost their coach and sold Tati Castellanos, and things were not really clicking for them, but they've started clicking again. So I actually would pick Montreal to win this game. I probably would, but it might go to a penalty shootout. It could be a 0-0 through 120 minutes and go to a shootout. It could be that kind of match. So who knows? I like Sean John though. If you hadn't picked, you surprised me, because I might have thrown Sean John in as one of my guys too if I had seen him. So you found him. So, but you know, I like to go the extra mile though, Quinny. I always, if you tell me to find you one, I'm going to find you two as much as I possibly can. So.
You could probably buy both of yours for the same price as Sean John, and they've got way more matches on the horizon. So I think you've definitely out scouted me on the goalkeeper front, Trip, and definitely no two ways about it, buddy. I make as well, Sean John, an outside Charlotte, outside for the World Cup.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what Greg Berhalter's going to do? I mean, I think Matt Turner is probably the leader in the clubhouse as far as who's going to get the job, but Sean should be on the team in Qatar, and yeah, he might get at least one match, or maybe he crushes it in camp, or Turner gets hurt or something like that. He's probably the #2 at the very worst.
Yeah. So I think Stefan's injured by all accounts, isn't he? Like Stefan.
Yeah, last I heard, yeah.
And I say Turner, although at Arsenal, and Berhalter doesn't mind picking a guy off the bench in the Premier League to be his #1. He's done that before.
Berhalter's crazy.
Yeah, so it's very likely he will do that. But again, you know, sometimes you go into a tournament, you want the goalkeeper. Like if NYC go at the final and Sean John's one of the heroes of it, pulling out.
Sure.
Because last year
they're certainly capable of upsetting Montreal. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Last year when NYC won it, Sean John was a big part of it, penalty shootouts and big saves. So if he'd done that 2 years in a row and Turner sitting on a bench somewhere, you know, just getting rich, then you never know, man. Outside shot is the word in is the phrasing for it for sure, Trippin.
All right, so for defender, we're going to take you first to Serie A, probably my least favorite of the Big Five leagues, but there is some SO5 potential here, and I want to point out a guy who brings some pretty nice, potential for long-term utility. Andre Cambiaso, who plays for Bologna. He just squeaks in with the L15 under 39, but look at his L5 at 47. So what's going on there, right? Well, he's finally started getting regular playing time. If you look back at some of his game logs, you can see a lot of sub, bench, DNPs. He's worked his way into the lineup. He's coming off of 90 minutes in 3 of the last 4 games. He got 60 minutes in the 5th game. Further back from that, he did sub in on the 3rd game ago where he started as a sub. So this is a guy who's starting to get some regular playing time. A little bit inconsistent with the AA, as you can see. His AA number doesn't pop. If you look at, for 1 year, it's 3.6. If we look L40, it's still pretty bad. If we look L5, it's still pretty starts to look a little bit better. And he got the pair of assists last match against Napoli, which kind of really popped him up. So that's why his L5 is a little bit higher. But you look at this guy, and this is a guy who's starting to contribute. And look at this matchup number. A nice, juicy green 59 against Lecce at home. Look a little further down the road. He's got Sassuolo at home coming up soon. That's a huge, great matchup. So I think Cambiaso is a guy who he plays in the midfield, but he qualifies as a defender card, which is nice. And it kind of sucks that he's going to, it's not really his bag of it. It's not really his job to keep the clean sheet, but he could lose the 10 points if he doesn't get it, if the rest of the guys don't hold for him. But I like Cambiaso here. I don't mind a defender playing in the midfield. Rio Hatate, as you're well familiar with, I think kind of fits that mold as well. So yeah, and he's under 23 till next summer. So who knows what could happen there? 0.0145. Even his rare price is fairly cheap, and this guy seems like he just is on the way up. I haven't ever watched him play. I don't know how he fits the eye test, but I like Andrea Cambiaso for a specialist this week for sure, for a defender. And then I also throw in our boy. I'm gonna take a stab at this. I'm gonna call him Gilles Dewale. Plays for Standard Liège in Jupiler. Another guy whose L5 is much higher than his L15, which I liked as I was doing some of this scouting. Super cheap, $3, 0.002 floor price. Let's double check if you can actually get that, if that's an actual real price. Yeah, I mean, look, this guy, you can get him for a couple of bucks, basically. Yeah. And he's on the way up, I think. He is. I do prefer center backs to fullbacks. I'm pretty sure that Gilles is a fullback for Liège, but a lot of nice, juicy matchups. He's got Anderlecht at home this week, which is always great. Then they go to Zulte and Eupen, which is the nuts matchup in Jupiler League. So this guy has a really great run coming up. If you look, he's getting close to the 10 AA, which we love to see. If we look at his L40, it's a little bit lower than his 1 year. But his last 5, his AA is popping at close to 20. So this guy might actually be a steal. Who knows? But 2 bad games and 3 terrific games just kind of lets you know that it's a boom or bust. That's kind of what you're going for in specialists, right? So give Gilles a shot, and he might deliver for you for very cheap, and you might win a prize with him.
And the great thing about him as well is that Belgian calendar, because they come back, around, I think it's Christmas Eve or something like that. They start to get their league back up and running. So for a couple of quid to then maybe call upon him again, perhaps, in any division you care to think about in that festive period, that could be a great one to just, try your hand at this week. And then, as I say, you've just got him sitting in the background in case you need another filler in the future.
December 22nd, January 5th, January 12th, they get right back after it.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And they don't stop.
And the thing I like about the Cambiaso shout as well is that Napoli are like the best team in Europe right now on form. They just look undeniable to everyone, And to get a great performance for Bologna, and Bologna are quite a well-built team on youth and, Moneyball kind of style, trying to get players for cheap, and, Arnautovic is their main man up front, for example. So them getting Lecce next and in that nice kind of run of form, they should be high on confidence, even though losing to Napoli. A
triple-double with 2 assists against Napoli at Napoli is a pretty nice performance for a 22-year-old defender playing in the midfield for sure. 4 tackles, 1. He lost the 12 points and he still pulled in 15 all around. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a great score, man. Just looking at that now on your screen. So my defender, I went back to the well and went for somebody that I kind of know their situation. I've actually seen him play a couple of times this season, tripping by accident, and his name is Niklas Stark, and he's a defender at Werder Bremen. Now, long-standing viewers of my content will remember when this guy was kind of almost like a penny stock for me back in a long while ago. And the thing with this guy is he's been in the Bundesliga for a number of years. He's definitely like a good Bundesliga centre back, maybe a below average centre mid, but he's been in Hertha Berlin for so long, and Hertha Berlin are just a chaos, a circus of a club, and he's had little spates of injury. But since moving to Bremen, he's actually starting to get regular playing time. He's starting to fit into a back three system, and his minutes, similar to one of your picks, is just going up and up and up. In the last game they lost 2-0 and he scored 71, you know. Me and Laird did a video earlier this year, and I was talking about Hertha players, and if you look at Hertha Berlin, if they lose 2-0, their defence will score 70, you know, and Niklas Stark was one of those guys.
Right.
And he's now in a back three that actually pass the ball a bit as well, and they don't maybe get scudded 5-0 anymore. You know, because if you look at Bremen's form since he's been starting, a 5-1 victory over Gladbach, a 2-1 victory over Hoffenheim. Those are the two games I watched by accident, seen them again. And then last weekend they lost to Mainz, of course. But
was it like run into an old girlfriend, you know, at the coffee shop, and you're like, Nicholas, how are you doing? Oh my God, you look great. Oh, you're in Bremen now. Wow,
you look so good in green.
Yeah,
yeah, a little bit, I guess. I actually picked his limited up donkeys ago, and I've never ever used it, but I will be using it this week because this weekend they play Freiburg, who again, similar to Napoli in a way. Very informed domestic team, you know, riding high over the last few years. And, you know, Bremen are given as good as they get. They did beat Gladbach 5-1. I don't think this will be an easy game, but I think for Stark, you know, he's going to pick up doubles and trebles. And just like you did, I'll open up that 70 score just to see what made it up. His AA was 36. He's got a double-double. Only one tackle, 5 interceptions, 4 positive duels, 89 passes, accurate final third passing 11, long passing to opposition 15. So he's getting 30 points on his passing, and then he's getting just under 9 points on attacking stats with a big chance created, attempted assist, and 5 penalty area entries. So he goes up for set pieces. So this guy at the moment is trading for 0.0049 Ethereum, which is
practically free.
Which is about £5, and in dollars it's maybe like $6 or something. You know, it's nominal. The Bundesliga, the only kind of flying ointment with it is they do have their normal winter break. They don't really come back until like beginning of Feb, end of Jan. So like you're not going to get this guy like you would with TrippinB's guy, the Belgian, over that period. But all the fixtures that they've got, like it just looks like he's, you know, Schalke, even against Bayern Munich, as long as they don't concede 3, you might get lucky with him, you know.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these other games, they're just as viable as the games we've just sampled for him to do 50 to 70s, you know. So.
Yeah, well, it illustrates like how much one thing, just kind of a side topic, but like how you say how these guys can lose 2-0 and still get 70 points out of it. And, you know, the team's performance and how the team goes is going to drive the results and the scores of your Sorare players. But a lot of it just comes down to what I've learned in the year and a half of playing Sorare is coaching style. And if you have a coach who wants his players to play a certain way, even if it's a losing game, but it works well with this Sorare matrix, they can really put up some great scores. So like paying attention to coaches is something that I've added to my scouting profile very much in recent times because it really pays off. So now I know to check out these Bremen guys, and even if they're losing games, their defenders are still scoring well. I love it. All right, when it comes to the midfield, we're going to move over from the Jupiler League to the Eredivisie. And this is maybe the recommendation that I'm the least sure of that I've got in the whole episode, but I decided to include him because his name is Daniel and my name's Daniel. So, you know, he just slipped in on the good side of the fence due to that. But Daniel Van Kam is a young under 23 midfielder. It can be had for, you know, $5, very cheap. He's got the L38 under, excuse me, the L15 of 38, which makes him eligible for specialist. And what I liked about this guy was not necessarily his most recent game, but just in his 2 games before that, he popped off some 20s. And so I'm thinking to myself, this guy might be getting his game into shape, and he's got some nice matchups. He's got the fixtures. He's got 20 at home. He's got NEC at home. So those are GOAT matchups. I really think that his price, if you just really need to throw a few bucks at somewhere and play a great matchup, this is the guy for you.
Nice.
He's got some potential. Again, not probably the other recommendations I did feel a little bit stronger about, but I put this guy in because I liked his name. Another midfielder that I like maybe a little better, and you can tell me about this guy, Quinny, as you're the Scottish Premier League expert, but Mark O'Hara,
Hardly.
playing for St. Mirren, another guy who's got some really nice fixtures ahead, and that's why I chose him. He's got Dundee United at home in this game week that we're mostly focused on, and it just looks like a smash spot for him. So I'd like to see a little bit more from him from the AA, but this is my shout. I'm tipping Mark O'Hara for a decisive this weekend against Dundee United. What do you got? What do you say?
I've got to say that's sacrilegious in this part of the world. With obviously friend of the channel and contributor Big Tony will be playing in that game, so maybe he does get a decisive, but let's hope it's not a victorious decisive, eh? But
I'm not afraid to make a few enemies here. Come on now.
St Mirren did look good against Celtic a few weeks ago, like quite resolute, well organised, and like you say, coaching does come into it with St Mirren. You know, the coaches definitely got a good grasp of that team and how they play. So, like, yeah, they're not scared of anyone, St Mirren, and yeah, like they will very much give almost a repeatable set of circumstances most game weeks. You know, the manager's quite set in his ways and for the better, you know. So I could be good for his AA. Because again, like we were saying with Bremen, and you made a great observation on it as well, is like, yeah, it doesn't always need to be a victory. You know, I've had plenty of guys score 70 and then like a 2-1 loss and stuff. You know, just sometimes you don't care. You're like, hey, 70 points. And you're maybe tagging the team on Twitter and stuff, and they're like, we lost. And I'm like, I don't care. Like,
right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
What a goal.
You got a bunch of tackles. It doesn't matter to me, yeah.
So maybe O'Hara does one of those shifts for sure, man. And again, I'm looking at the price of that. What's that, like £2 or something he goes for?
Yeah,
£1? It's like nothing.
It's extremely cheap, yeah.
And the Scottish League, again, similar to the Belgian, comes back right into that festive period. I think Scottish football comes back on Boxing Day, the 26th of December, and maybe the 27th, something like that. So again, there's a nice wee bit of link up there, a wee bit of longevity in TrippinB's build. I love it.
And this is where I kind of get in my speech of like, the reason that I felt more confident in my recommendations for defender and goalkeeper is because those are the positions that I like to use as my under 40 spots when I fill out a specialist lineup, right? So when I'm building specialists, I always want to make sure that one of my 2 under 40s is in the goalkeeper slot, because I feel like if you're putting under 40 guys, under 40 outfielders, you're sacrificing potential upside. So I'm rarely going to play an under 40 midfielder in my specialist. I try to make it the defender and the goalkeeper, and then I put my studs, you know, the other components of the specialist lineup, the over 60 and the other good players. I'll try to focus on like my forward and my 2 midfielders usually, or a second defender will be, you know, sort of my tried and true type players. And I try to sneak in the back door of the specialist with an under 40 goalkeeper and an under 40 defender. So that's my style.
Yeah, I can dig it, man. The only problem I've had with that over the time is just sometimes chasing the goalkeeper. It's a bit time consuming, you know, because I ended up with a wee collection of like 3 of them at one point. I'd picked up, and it's like, oh, he's only 30 quid. Oh, he's only 40 quid. And then it's like, I need another one, and I'm not even using
they
these
can be
guys
tough
anymore.
to resell.
And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's the only thing. But like sometimes, like a Sean John, maybe one you've got lying around already, or sometimes it's just like, yeah, even beyond this, I could use this guy anyway, or the fixtures will probably remain, you know, quite consistent to keep his score around where we found it. Sort of thing. So yeah, no, I can definitely go for it. In terms of like, for my midfielder, I'm a wee bit contrarian in a little respect to yourself, Trippin, because I find myself, because I don't know what it is, right? But see, with midfielders in football, I know so rare. Like, I'm like a magpie. Like, midfielders are the thing I always watch for, the thing I'm always excited to go and get more of. Just because, like, I can just really appreciate, I feel like I really appreciate good hard-working midfielders. And you'll see on screen, this guy I've gotten, I've been watching Getafe for far too long at this point, but Carl Zelena is still L15 under 40 now. I was having a chat in the member section about this guy not too long ago, because he's a solid L45 limited for the most part, always scores around that, and you just are really hoping he doesn't get booked. But the thing about Carl Zelena, before I kind of get into it, a wee bit of background for anyone that's not familiar with him. This guy's a former Barcelona kid, and when he was coming through La Masia, and I know we get this from time to time and it's ill-founded, but he was like the next Maradona, is the stuff they were saying in La Masia, you know, the Barcelona academy, that they know a thing or two about onions, you know. And he's just had a horrible time with injury, didn't really break into Barca for a number of reasons over the last couple of years. And at Getafe, he's been the #1 midfielder in there with Amrabat and Maximovic. And as you can see over his, what would that be, L8 or something like that? I'm just going to put a 3-month graph on it. But if he gets it decisive, he can get over 70. And if he doesn't get booked and stuff like that, like, he can get into the high 40s. I think he's got better games in him to come. I think his form is improving as we're going through the year. And the thing about Getafe is they are like a very, and again, it's similar to what you were saying earlier with coaching style. The manager is Quique Sanchez Flores, who will probably be familiar to some people. Used to manage Atletico Madrid, won the Europa League, managed Watford quite successfully in the Premier League for a short time. And he's been around a few times. But anyway, good manager, knows his stuff, and he's quite set with his front 5, 6-ish kind of players. And Carlos Elena has definitely been given the room to really become the main man in midfield, get on the ball, try and create things. And then when he is just fortunate enough to be the man that makes the assist or something, he actually picked up 2 decisives in the midweek. And no, I didn't play him. It's probably one of the first times I didn't play him in ages. Since his last decisive, in fact. You can probably tell exactly when I've played him and when I've not by his scores. But I think his form only improves as the season goes on. And Getafe, because they don't have any midweek action outside the Copa del Rey, you're not worried about, you know, Europa League rotations and all this kind of stuff. And if he stays fit and healthy at 24, and he's at 0.0029, which is about £3 for unlimited, he's got a lot of good upside, I think.
The blessing and the curse of midweek fixtures. Yeah, sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth, for sure, because you have to deal with all those rotation issues. So, yeah, I like it. I like Carlos. He looks good. Let's tip him for another decisive away to Celta Vigo this weekend.
Yeah, so Celta Vigo are quite an open team. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I kind of forgot to even look at the opposition thing. But Celta Vigo, another team I've watched tons of, and this is going to be a game that will be quite open and end to end. It'll be very counter-attack. Like you were saying earlier, Serie A is probably your least favourite of the big 5. It's probably the same as me. But La Liga isn't wildly entertaining, but it does have like a kind of beauty to it, because it is quite dirty, you know, in some respects. Yeah, but then the attacking play can be so amazing, you know. There's a real kind of duality that goes in there, and Carlos Elena kind of operates on that fence. And Celta Vigo is a good match to maybe for a player like him to stand up.
Yeah, I think there's going to be goals in that one for sure.
And then the next, I'm even just looking at the rest of his form. Wow. Then after that, Elche, Cadiz, Almeria, and Mallorca. 4 games in a row after that, which is bottom half teams comfortably.
Right. And a lot of those are relegation zone teams even. Yeah.
And Getafe to this point have had, like, and again, I know not everyone at home will know this, right? But Rayo Vallecano, Getafe, Real Madrid, and Rayo Valladolid, all 4 of those teams, obviously they're one of them, they're all in Madrid. So they've had 3 Madrid derbies in a row. Then they've played Athletic Bilbao, who are like 3rd in the league or something. Prior to that, played Sociedad, who are doing amazing in Europe and in the league. Valencia is a bit of a, and Villarreal. So, and Atletico Madrid to start the season. Girona, who've got Castellanos and CFG behind them. So the start to the season has been quite testing, you know. And then between Celta Vigo and then these 4 games, it could be a nice window.
That's such a great thing to look for in a specialist scouting expedition. Also, is like not just the matchups that are upcoming. Like, okay, hey, he's got some great matchups. The numbers look nice here. They're at home. These are open games, etc. But like, look at what the fixture list might tell you about why their L15 is down. Right? If they're just coming off of a run of tough fixtures, that could be the reason that they qualify for specialists in the first place. When really all the signs are pointing to that number going up and up.
Yeah, completely, man. And then the second midfielder that I picked, I went for double mid. It's the only position I doubled up on. Is Mikey Johnson, or Michael Johnson, as you'll find him on Sorare and Sorare data. The Celtic loanee who is in Victoria Guimarães. Now, he, again, if you look at his L5 or whatever, it's like non-existent. Didn't really play for Celtic too much. I've got the wrong tab up, sorry. I'm looking at his last rewards. But he's come off the bench 3 times. He's got an assist once. He didn't come off the bench at the weekend, but he started midweek in the Cup against like a 4th division team or something, and he got 2 decisives. I forget exactly what they were, if it was 2 goals or a goal or an assist or something, but it's expected that he'll probably start at the weekend. And like a winger who's quick, can dribble, and knows where the, you know, knows where the back of the net is, if you like. And even looking 3 out the next 4 fixtures, Boa Vista, Famalicão, and Maritimo, you'll probably be able to keep him under L15 under 40 for maybe 2 of those games if you're lucky. maybe they get humped at Sporting Lisbon and he comes off the bench and scores a 20, puts him back down again, perhaps, you know. So somebody who, you know, outside of playing Porto, Sporting or Benfica, is definitely somebody that's decisive capable, like every week, I would say. And at the moment he's
and that's again that's what you're going for in specialists is you know, you wouldn't an attacking winger that, you know, has a chance to potentially return like a 32, 33 with a bunch of possessions lost. Obviously, that's not who you want to put in your threshold team, but that is who you want to put in your specialist team because you're shooting for the top, you're shooting for the spike scores, and you want these guys to have outsized performances to what they normally do. And so being part of the attack like that is crucial. You know, like a lot of these recs we're given are not necessarily the safe floor plays, but these are ceiling plays to go for the gusto, go for the top.
Totally.
And Johnston, I mean, again, though, the longer term utility is nice for him with not just Boa Vista this weekend, but then he's got, you know, two 55s and a 56 in his next upcoming 5 matchups after that. So you'd have to sweat the game away to Sporting. But other than that, this guy could get you. When you're looking at that, that's when you're looking. A lot of times you're looking to buy these guys for 1 or 2 weeks and then flip them. So that longer, you know, to sell them on to the next person who's looking to build a specialist or whatnot. So the longer term fixtures are always good to look at, knowing that, you know, down the road 3-4 weeks, there's going to be more opportunities to sell is always nice.
Completely. And then, Trippin, do you want to take us on to your striker?
Well, let's do it. I only did one. I'm a slacker. I did 2 at all the other positions. Only did 1 striker, but that's because
that's cool.
My specialist lineups, like I said, when I fill in the striker is usually my over 60, like when it comes down to it, or one of the midfielders. So, but this is a guy I'm going to go back to Serie A. I said I wouldn't do it, but again, you have to set your heart aside in So Rare. You have to play with your head, and so this is a guy I found that I really like for just about, you know, 15, 20 quid, 0.01 ETH. And his name is Luca Zanimacchia, plays for Cremonese, attacking right midfielder. This is a guy that, once again, has a much higher L40 than his L15 and L5. So, you know, like the form is there. And I had to choose this guy because, excuse me, the class is there, not the form. Hopefully the form will return. I had to choose this guy because just look at this, like, 50 home at Sampdoria, home to Udinese, and then at Salernitana. Excuse me, forgive me. That's why I hate the Italian league. I can't say the names. But this is just an insane run of the next 3 fixtures in a row. So I really like this guy's chance to have decises in multiple games in the next few, and I think that's going to be really nice. He can help you this week and give you a good opportunity to flip right after, which is what you're looking for in a specialist buy.
Yeah, for sure. Not a name I'm familiar with, but that run of form looks very good. And the thing you do find with Serie A clubs in particular is a lot of their main goal threat do go through 3 or 4 guys, you know. And a lot of the play can be quite repetitive. Cremonese being one of the newly promoted teams from Serie B, like, you know, that they are relying on the players that they currently have. They're not one of these teams that have come up like Monza, who can just go out and buy like 40 players and reimagine themselves overnight, you know. So for a guy like that, 24, and again coming in about 15 quid or so, I think that's a solid one for those fixtures. The striker I've went for is now again, if you're looking for this guy on a variety of websites, his name is spelled completely different, right? The easiest way to find him is type in Mykola with a K, right? So Mykola Kurichev or something like that. He's a striker that plays for Hibs in Scotland at the moment, and he is on loan from Troyes or whatever, who are another CFG team, City Football Group in France. He's currently trading now for about £6 or 0.006 for the limited. His L15 is 33, and you know, this guy, he's not really had any games at his previous loan spell in Leuven. He's only been in Scotland a short time, and you know, you can see with the sample size we've got there is L5 or L6 since he's been at Hibs, minus the game at Celtic where he only played 45. He's a main player, he's starting, and he's, you know, getting integrated into the squad. And a main striker in any team is it's L15 under 40 who could be on the end of a goal or a tap in or anything like that for £6. He's 21 as well. He's under 23 until 2025. He is a signing of CFG, baby. You know, so like this won't be his last loan spell, so, you know. So he'll be receiving passes from KDB in no time, right? But we can dream. But it's probably quite a safe assumption. If he doesn't stay at Hibs beyond this season, if you are looking at the U23 angle this guy offers, Troyes or Quab will either play him or they'll continue to loan him out until he's 40, you know, and you'll get lots of nice different access of utilities into whatever other leagues he loans into, you know.
I mean, the 3 years of under 23 eligibility, just the potential just like screams at you like, hey, like for $10, you might as well just take a flyer and see what happens with this guy in the next couple of years. And again, like the whole point of specialists is you have to sort of get yourself out of the mindset of like what they've done. I mean, we're in some of our scouting, we're looking, oh, this guy, he's done this, this, and this, he looks good. But it's not necessarily about what they've done. It's about what they can do. It's not about their talent, it's about their opportunity. So a lot of this is just strictly playing the matchups and saying like, all right, who fits the criteria of having the under 40 L15, and then who, and are they playing against dog teams, and who, you know, this is their chance to shine. You're trying to find the spike, and like a home game against St. Johnstone and then St. Mirren right after that, you have to figure Hibs will be putting up some goals, right?
Completely. Thanks for catching me on the run-up as well. But yeah, St Johnstone are definitely a team I would fancy to score against. St Mirren, as we were speaking about with your boy O'Hare, they can be quite defensively resolute, but like if he's the main striker, you've got to fancy him in any of these games, really. It's only really, you know, Rangers away at Ibrox, you maybe say is a tough game, Celtic and then Hearts the derby, but these games are all then towards the new year, they're further on. So he's got a nice spell of form to really kick up. And a U23 striker, as soon as that L15 turns into a 50 or something, he's not going to be £6 anymore, you know.
Right, exactly,
60, you know, or something. So
exactly.
If it works out, it will work out, you know, percentage-wise, probably quite fun. Oh, good luck to everyone this game week. Trippin, it's been an absolute pleasure, my man. Thanks for joining us.
Sorare TV, baby.